what's up, everybody? It's Billy Nash. Welcome to episode 3 of my podcast, the Luxury Real Estate Podcast with me, Billy Nash. Today, we're going to talk about something that I think is very important in not only building your luxury practice, your luxury real estate business, but also once you are established to continue to do this. And what I call this episode is the $10 million no. So what does that mean? It could be $1 million no. It could be a $5 million no. It could be a $10 million no. It is very, very tempting and easy to take on a listing because you might get fogged or blurred by the ultimate outcome of a large payout. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best thing for your business. And what do I mean by that? I mean that it's so important to set expectations on price in your first conversation with your new potential client. I see this happen a lot. You'll go into a potential opportunity and the client is very emotional about their property, which is fine, right? Your job is to bring, and my job is to bring reality to the situation. Because one thing I will not do, and you should heed this as a good advice, is I won't buy someone's listing. And what I mean by that is if a client tells me their property is worth 35% more of what I think the value is, because at the end of the day, none of us have a crystal ball. When we put a listing on the market and we think the price is appropriate, the ultimate determination of price is the market. So when the market speaks, you listen to it. So there's no guarantee that you're going to price a property, within 5% of the market. Sometimes it happens, and in a bull market, the last 2 years, you can put anything on the market and it looks like it would sell. But the key is to set those expectations early. Set them early, and it'll save you not only time, but it'll also save that relationship. Because I think the last thing that you want to do is when your client is talking to you from an emotional standpoint about their property, understand that you have to bring the business side of that sales process to the table. And your client will appreciate that. I don't walk into a home and listen to someone tell me that their property is worth, let's just give it an example, $7 million. And I know after my research and what's happening in the marketplace, it's really worth $4 million. And the last thing you want to do is bring on a new listing into the market that is substantially overpriced. And then you end up, after the listing expires, spending your hard-earned resources to market something, but because you didn't set that expectation of pricing from the onset, it turns out to be a failed process. And what does a failed process do? It allows another luxury realtor to come in second in line. After you spent your hard-earned resources, you give it 100%, but from the onset, you never set the expectations. And I think that's so important when you're building your luxury real estate business, is setting those expectations. And trust me, the temptation is there. We all have that temptation when looking at a beautiful property and sitting in that living room and looking out at those beautiful grounds or that swimming pool and that, in the beautiful sunset, and you almost get hypnotized. But don't get hypnotized. Stick to your guns. Stick to the valuations that you have, that you've done your research on before you take on the listing. And sometimes, I know it's painful, you got to say no. And that's what I mean when I say the $10 million no. And we're going to get to some real examples of how I've done that throughout the last 6 years. And it's pretty much worked out to help me with my business and to be to be able to have that ability to say no is powerful. And trust me, it is painful sometimes to say no, to a beautiful, incredible mansion when there's, and what I say to clients, and they've heard me say this, if anyone's listening, that's a loyal client or even someone that's in the business that knows me personally. What I say, always is, there are 100 realtors that I can bring that'll line up from your front door down the street that'll take this listing at a price that's not realistic. Well, guess what? That to me is not a real business. Your client will appreciate the honesty and you take the emotions out of it. I recently said to a client, and I think this is really important, I said, I'm emotionally attached to you and your wife because we have a very strong relationship, but I'm not emotionally attached to your house. I'm emotionally attached to the process. And I will get you to the finish line, but you have to trust my guidance. 1, I know what I'm doing. 2, I have hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in closed transactions. And 3, I am not practicing on you. I'm a professional, and this is what I do. So take that same attitude towards your next listing appointment, and I guarantee you, positive things will come out of that. Might be a little painful, but just go for it. Do it. Because the ability to say no will create more opportunities at the right price for a seller when they look at your listing agreement to say yes. And that is the key. That's the key. Getting the deal to the finish line. A lot of people that can list properties overpriced, but guess what? The smart people in the wings right now, the realtors that are professional realtors or growing their business that get it, they're going to be waiting in the wings for that listing that's overpriced. And right now in this market, we are seeing a ton of expired listings hitting every single day. I haven't seen expired listings like this in over 2.5 years. So the opportunity is unbelievable right now for those that are disciplined, focused, and have passion to grow a business or continue to build on the business that they've already have. So it's also very important, the ability to say no with a buyer, right? If you have a buyer that you're running around with and they're putting in lowball offers, I'm not in the business to take shots, right? I'm going to take a shot. I'm going to go look at a house that's worth that I know is worth $6 million, and I'm representing the buyer. And the buyer goes, let's write an offer at $3.5 million. I got no interest in that business because that's a fantasy buyer. And you're becoming a PTW, a professional time waster. And like I said last week, one thing we can't get back is time. So use your time wisely. So that's a perfect, thing with a buyer. I love working with buyers, right? I say my business is probably spread evenly 50-50, representing ultra high net worth clients that are selling trophy assets and also representing ultra high net worth individuals and their families that are on the buy side. But for me to run around South Florida or anywhere in the state of Florida with a buyer that's looking to make offers 50 per 60, 30 to 50% below where I see value, no good. It's a waste of my time. And you're also wasting the time. I just had somebody make an offer on a property yesterday. Make an offer on a property, which was absolutely a ridiculous offer. And I said to the agent, don't even waste your time putting it on paper because you will not get a response from us. They may come back around, but that's an unrealistic buyer that had set that the buyer's agent, the buyer's agent set unrealistic expectations. So it's very, very important when you are setting expectations both on the buy side and the sell side. So to reiterate, to someone that's growing their business, that's starting in the business, I know there's temptations to just take listings to take them. But at the end of the day, it is super important to be able to have the ability to say no. No can create more productivity to get more yeses, right? And I think that's super important. Let's talk about the, that I think listeners can appreciate, or hopefully they'll appreciate, some real life examples. I had a listing which actually came into me as a referral. And I went in to meet with the seller and the builder. And this project was $30 million project. $30 million project. They had it on for about 12 months before me. And guess what? I don't have this magic potion. I don't have a crystal ball. At the end of the day, I run a process that hopefully gets to the finish line because of my experience and my expertise in the market. But nobody bats 1,000. And if anybody tells you they're batting 1,000, run, don't walk, because they're probably full of shit. Nobody bats 1,000, bats 1,000. So I went in, met with the developer, and I sensed right away that pricing was out of line for the last 12 months of what the opportunity was. So there was no new value proposition. So when I started talking about pricing and where I thought these properties should be priced, and I take all the emotions out of it. I'm not here I'm not here to hurt your feelings. I'm just here to be damn honest with you. This properties, these lots are not worth, with the homes on them, $30 million. It's just not happening. No. Maybe 20. And then the owner came into the properties and, he gave his whole spiel on why they were worth so much and where they were located and blah, blah, blah. And guess what? I'm a good listener, but I like to listen to reality, not fantasy. So I got the listing. They were ready to sign everything. And I thought about it over the weekend because they weren't going to go with the pricing that I suggested. We want you. We're going to hire you. You're going to do a great job. And I thought about it. I don't want this developer to own me for the next 2 years trying to sell something that's unsellable at a certain price point that's not going to agree. So that was a $30 million no. Sometimes you just got to do it. You bite the bullet. And one of the things that I always say this, when one window shuts, another window opens. Because right around the same time of that window shutting for 30 million, within a month, I listed one of the largest hunting preserves in the state of Florida with almost 4,000 acres. So one window shut and another one opened. And that seller, which turns out to be an unbelievable, loyal, new relationship, listen to me. Listen to my advice. Listen to my pricing. Listen to my marketing strategies. And they did, and I sold it, which was one of the biggest ranch sales in the state of Florida. And people are going to say, well, Nash, I thought you sold luxury real estate. You're not a ranch guy. For the right asset, the right trophy property, I put my energy towards it. And at the end of the day, it's all the same to me. I got it done. Another example of another no, I think, which would be interesting, is to sometimes, and this is actually interesting, you're so convinced because you do your homework and you know your business. It's all about confidence. You can talk someone out of listing their property with you because they're really not true sellers at this point. But you gain their confidence, and at some point, you think it'll come back around. Or you tell them, go ahead and list it with someone else at that price. And in 6 months from now, if it's not done, I'd love to revisit it with you. I heard somebody say one time, and of course it's a joke, but It's kind of real. It's always better, they say, to be the second or third wife and the second or third realtor. Kind of funny, but it's kind of true. So one of the things I also think is interesting, so that particular example is that after we had this 45-minute conversation, this seller realized that, guess what? He's just not ready. He's still emotionally attached to the property. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. This is a long-term game. In the luxury real estate practice, I'm hands-on. I want to do 20, 25 deals a year, 30 deals a year. It's very difficult to do 200 or 300 transactions a year and say you're in the luxury business and you have a hands-on practice. I just don't see it. This is a relationship-driven business. So this particular seller came to me the next day after I told them the bottom line of what I thought the range of pricing would be. I've decided, Billy, after listening to your thoughts last night, I'm not ready at this point to sell the property. And guess what? That's fine. We didn't have an adversarial conversation. We had an educational conversation because he educated me on where he was emotionally on the property. And I educated him on where I stood on the value of the property. So I think that's super important. So I am confident that at some point in the next 12 months, 18 months, 6 months, at some point, this seller knows what I do, and this seller will come back to the table because he's already agreed that the way we run our business, it was a fit. We just, at this point, couldn't come to the meeting of the minds on where I thought value was. And he didn't say, I'm going to go hire someone else. He just said, I'm not ready yet. So the ability to say no, the ability to back up the reason, you can't just say no. There has to be a reason why there's a no. And by talking to the client about why you're saying no, sometimes comes around and it'll help grow your business because they'll respect you for saying no to them. It's kind of like, playing hard to get, right? Make people want you more. So at the end of the day, I think it's super important to remember that word when you're tempted to take a listing that is 30, 40% overpriced. I know it's tempting, but I'm not in the business to meet with someone and then write them a check for $7,000 to $10,000 and say, here you go. Hey, it was nice meeting you. Here's a check, right? No, it's not the way I run my business, and it's not the way you should run yours. So with that said, I have a couple of more examples. We can save those for another podcast. But I did have a question which someone asked me on social media, and I think it's interesting. It's a little bit away from today's topic, but they just asked me. This is, hold on one second, let me find it. It's Billy, Billy. And this is Lisa from Chicago. Billy, tell me what it looks like for you to prospect for luxury listings. Well, it's a good question because we all have our different methods of prospecting. And my prospecting is very hands-on, face-to-face, networking, relationship driven. So everyone that's listening could have a different way that they prospect or look for new opportunities. But Lisa, my style is very, I don't want to call it old school because at the end of the day, it's all relationship driven. So I put myself in places where potential opportunities can happen, whether it's at the club where I play golf or wherever. Getting involved in community events, sponsoring events that are for specific causes in your community, and just being around the hoop, right? I always say if you're around the hoop, you eventually get a shot. And that doesn't mean that you have to be Joe or Mary realtor, where, every time you walk in a room, people go, oh shit, here we go. We had a guy like that in my old golf club in New Jersey. And if he's listening, he knows who he is. And he was so annoying, it was unbelievable. Your eyeballs wanted to pop out because he was a stock market guy like myself. And every time he walked in the room, people said, oh, great, here we go. Joe CNBC. So annoying. You couldn't even get a word out before I had to tell you about the market. So don't be that person. Just be around the hoop, and have the general knowledge that if real estate comes up, you have the expertise to deliver the goods. So total networker, relationship driven. And that's just the way I run my business. I'm going to leave you with this. I think the next 12 to 18 months, there will be tremendous opportunity for luxury realtors or people that are, or agents that are breaking into the luxury real estate business. There is a gold mine of opportunities. The last 2.5 years was absolutely bonkers, right? Now we're going back to a normal market. We're going back to the market where you have to have incredible skill set and knowledge of your marketplace, because the COVID frenzy is over. And I think now you're going to see a lot of realtors in the industry fade away. I think that new listing or that expired listing won't get 100 calls a day. It'll drop to 50 to 10. And then I think the ones that are able to grasp the business and learn will be the ones that'll be standing strong, and it'll create, like I said, tremendous opportunities. One quick last example. We have a new listing, and the woman said, thank God that you're listing our property because we can't answer the phone. I said, what do you mean? And this was a referral. We can't answer the phone. I said, what do you mean? She said, our phone rings, this is no bullshit, 30 to 40 times a day for the last 2 weeks that my husband and I can't answer the phone. So you want to talk about differentiating yourself from the pack? Guess what? The pack is out there, and you better work smart. So with that, let's wish everybody a happy holiday. I think it'd be fun to kind of bring up a little holiday stat that I heard the other day, and I thought this was amazing. There's actually 2,300 people that have been named eggnog in the world. So I thought that was pretty wild. Imagine naming your kid eggnog. So if you're at a party, a holiday party or a Christmas party at work, your holiday party, and someone says, where's the eggnog? And somebody comes out and waves, it could be one of the 2,300. So happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah to everybody. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. Listen to it on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Download it. Give me a review, 5 stars. I love everybody. Happy holidays, and we'll see you next week. And we're going to have a special guest to kick off the first of the year with some fun, good 2023 predictions to help you grow your luxury business. Talk to you soon.